Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Healing Project with your girl Tina Renee, and I have a special guest on tonight by the name of Anthony Washington. Anthony has a story to tell and to share, and tonight's show is going to be something totally different. We always focus on the women. We always focus on the mental part of a woman, what she goes through different things in her life. And so this time, I was actually led to start focusing on the men and things that men go through in life and the different things that they have to experience. And a lot of times the men don't speak about what they go through. They keep it to themselves because in society we have brainwashed some of our men and not speaking and not going and getting the help that they need in different things in life. You know, we are all human. We go through things. So if anybody says that they don't go through nothing, they're a lie. If anybody says that they're not hit by life situations, again, they're a lie. So on tonight's show, we're going to talk about men and divorce. We're going to talk about the finances part of men going through the divorce. We're going to talk about co-parenting. We're going to talk about their emotional well-being in the midst of going through divorce and what it takes or what a man's steps is to take to regain who he is, to learn who he is, to love on him again. So I'm not going to hold any further, but I want to thank you for coming on tonight to the Healing Project. Again, our guest tonight is Anthony Washington. Without further ado, let's bring Anthony Washington on. Hey, Anthony.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming on. We truly appreciate you for coming on and sharing your story on tonight. Usually we don't come on Saturdays, but tonight I'm doing a special edition tonight only because I have class on Monday. So
Yeah, I love it.
I had to rearrange a little bit, rearrange. So I thank you again for coming on the Healing Project. And as you know, tonight's show, we're talking about men and divorce, their mental status, the co-parenting, their well-being, how to love themselves all over again after the fact of going through a divorce. What does it look like? What does it look like for a man on the man's side? So before we dive into that and get into the meat, go ahead and share with everybody who is Anthony Washington.
So first and foremost, again, I do appreciate you so much for having me on, and
Yes.
things, especially because, like you said, um, as men, we don't get a chance to share this side of our story, just because, like you said, society has pretty much got us to a point where we believe that we really shouldn't speak up or say anything, and if anything's
Right.
wrong, we just got to suck it up and just kind of deal with it. So I do appreciate the fact that you're having these tough conversations because they're important. They're definitely important.
Absolutely.
So a little bit about
Absolutely.
me. I am, for those that don't know, I'm actually a minister, licensed minister, originally from California.
Okay.
And I always tell people, because I was originally born in Memphis, Tennessee, but I was raised in California. So I tell people all the time, I have a Southern upbringing on the West Coast, right? So I know
Right.
it sounds to people from California, I don't sound like you in Memphis either. So I always grew up with words like earn. I'm going to earn my clothes, and people didn't know what I
Uh-huh.
was talking about whatsoever. And they're like, earn, you like think that with the ashes, like no, like earn your clothes. Y'all just be wrinkled. So, but then kind of like help them understand a little bit of how that works. So, it was always interesting, kind of growing up in California. Then I moved out to Vegas about 12 years ago, and a lot
Hmm.
like most people, you're just looking for another opportunity, looking for something different. I am a father of six. Four are biological, two are inherited from our previous marriage, and I still claim them as my kids. So
Hmm.
I'm one of those people who take fatherhood very seriously. I'm really, really proud to be a father and a dad. So for me, that's a big deal. Also, an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Run business as well, and just continue to grow and develop. And that's really most of my life is really all about serving and helping as many people as possible. So.
Absolute. Good, good, good. I love it. Good, good, good. And I know and I see, well, of course, Andy and I go to church together. So we are on the ministerial team together.
Yes.
And I see Anthony, and Anthony and I have worked previous years ago in the nonprofit
Yes.
arena. Not only that, he was also my manager for when I was running for mayorship here in Las Vegas. He was actually my manager. But so Anthony does a lot. Anthony has many hats that he wears. not only in the finance, he does life insurance.
Yes.
So a father, he's a son, he's an uncle, he's a brother. Um, brother-in-law. So, Anthony wears a lot of hats, just like women. We wear multiple hats at times. So Anthony as well, he does the same thing. But the thing I love about Anthony is that he's very passionate about what he does. And I'm speaking in reference to speaking and giving back to the community, speaking and into our young people. Again, Anthony and I, we did that years ago where we were going out and we were doing things for our young people here in the community. So
Yeah.
Anthony has a heart to give back. He has a heart to help others. So on tonight, we're going to talk about men and divorce. So y'all get your pen and paper, get you some juice, some Kool-Aid, some water, whatever it is to wet your whistle. But we're going to talk about, like Anthony's mentioned, things that we don't like to talk about, things that men don't like to speak about, because why? They don't want to be ostracized, their manhood, because sometimes we can be mean people in society. And not only in society, in family, we can be mean to our loved ones and not truly understand what the individual's going through in their situation. You hear a lot of people say, when you're going through, I say divorce is like a death,
Yes.
because you are dying, because you go into the situation not believing and not thinking that you're going to get a divorce. So what happens is that now you have to find yourself, reinventing yourself, in learning how to love yourself again. Because again, when you're in a marriage, you have to look out for other people. When you're in a
Yeah.
marriage, it's not all about you any longer; it's about the other individual as well. And if you have children, it's about your children as well. So being
Very.
a man is responsible for their family, and that's biblical. Men are responsible for their family.
Yeah.
So he has to be the provider, the protector. Even though God is our provider, he's our protector, but God placed the man as the leader, as the head of the household. So therefore, he's wearing that hat as well. And sometimes I know it can be overwhelming. I truly know it could be overwhelming, as being a man, because he has a lot on his shoulders. He has to make sure that the bills are paid. He has to make sure that the children are okay. He has to make sure that his spouse is okay. So in the midst of this divorce, Anthony, and in the midst of gone through the divorce, how does that make you feel as a man? And where was your mindset when you was going through the divorce?
So I'm gonna tell you the hardest part about getting a divorce. Uh,
Mm,
you feel like you failed everything.
mm,
You feel
mm.
like you failed your family. You feel like you failed God. You feel like you failed your church, and
Yes,
especially as leaders within the church, right? And
right.
you look at that, and you're like, okay, well, I'm kind of the example, and you're like, well, I failed as the example.
Yes.
I'm also the oldest brother, so as oldest child in general, you always a lot of times you feel like you do have that weight on your shoulder, like you're the example for the family.
Right.
So through that, you're like, okay, well, I'm failing everybody. They're
Yeah.
looking at me and they're expecting certain expectations of me, and I'm like, I'm not meeting that expectation. So a
Right.
lot of times, especially as men, you're holding on to that. I'm letting everyone down
Mhm.
because I wasn't able to keep everything afloat.
Yes, 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 yes. And that's good that you said that, because again, men don't really speak about their
No,
mental part of what they're thinking about when they're going through. We don't see when you guys cry. We don't see when you guys are beating yourself up because you feel like you just said you failed.
yeah,
But marriage is a two-party um contract. I won't say two, it's three, because it's you, the spouse, and God.
yeah,
So, oftentimes, again, life takes a toll on a marriage. And sometimes, and when I officiate weddings, and I always tell the couples this: keep your family out your business.
yes,
And a lot of times family can interfere in the bit in your marriage, and it can make it, you know, not last, because everybody has something to say. Not the
very,
two individuals involved, but you have outside noise that's coming in, which actually infiltrates the marriage.
very true.
So on that note, when you're going through the divorce, Anthony, and you've gone through divorce, did at some point, at some time, did you try to say that you beat yourself up? Did you say that I could have done better? And in what areas did you say that you could have done better in?
So I'm always one of those people who like I said in my introduction, like I'm always thinking about growth, development. So I'm always looking at what could I've done differently, what can I've done better, what new
Right.
skills can I've learned that could have maybe salvaged some things. And yeah, I'm always looking at that. Biggest thing though for me, I have to. So funny enough, I was watching this video,
Okay.
and it was this kid. It was a father and a son. They're talking,
Mm-hmm.
and the father is having a tough conversation with his son. So the son
Okay.
asks the dad, "Did you only get married because? Did you only marry my mom because I was born?"
Mm, mm.
And the father
Wow.
says, "No, but it did speed things up." And so the son then asks him, "Well, am I the reason why y'all didn't work out?" He said, "No.
Mm.
Even if you marry the right person at the wrong time, it's still the wrong person."
Mm. Wow. That's good. That's good. That's good.
And that had me thinking, and that one video really helped kind of shape my mind a little bit to you can do everything that you can possibly do.
Right.
And there's
Right.
always room for you to improve and grow and do better and things of that nature. But
Right.
if the person isn't on the same wavelength or you're not both vibing on, hey, this is where we should be going together, what happens
Mm-hmm.
is you end up with two different visions. You end up with
Mm.
one person who says, hey, I'm ready to make the leap and go to this level, and the other
Right. Right.
person, I'm not ready for that yet.
Right.
And
Right.
after so long, it becomes a toll for either party, whether it's the man or the woman.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually you start to have a drift
Mm.
and you start to feel like, okay, well, I want to do better and grow, but you're holding me back.
Wow.
And then there's becomes some resentment there. And even
Okay.
though you can do your best to try to hold that off and say, you know what, no, I'm gonna give grace, I'm gonna hold off, and you're gonna wait.
Yes.
Eventually, you just get tired, and you feel like you're literally carrying everything by yourself. And for me,
Yeah.
a lot of times that's where it eventually got to, where it felt like I'm just holding on to something, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
holding on to everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still falling. So now I'm holding on to a falling building,
Wow.
and instead of getting out the building, I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to hold the building up and getting crushed at the
Right.
same. So
Wow.
you get to that point, and eventually you just say, you know what, I can't do it. I'm literally going to die here, and
Wow.
I can't die here. My kids are so depending on me. They need a better version of me, and I've
Right.
never been that person who wanted to be 67 years old
Mm-hmm.
and just felt like they gave up on life, and
Mm.
it was like, oh, I'm just here, and that's
Wow.
not fair to your kids. That's not fair to your spouse. That you're just
Right.
there. Point.
Right.
So
Wow.
now there's no progression. There's no development. And I'm a firm believer that God has given everyone gifts, abilities, talents, and things that He wants and expects for us to flourish in.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not even being fair to God because you're not even able to give God His full of everything
Yeah.
everything He gave you because now you're too busy holding on to something that He's telling you you're not meant to carry in the first place.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it becomes a bit of both where, okay, God, I know you're saying obviously you don't like divorce, you want me to be here, but at the same
Right.
time you want me to be crutched. So it
Mm.
eventually becomes, okay, well, God, what do I do? And sometimes it is making the harder decision of saying, let me not be crutched and actually pursue what God truly wants me to do. And if I have to take the backlash and the the beating
Mm-hmm.
for making this
Mm-hmm.
choice, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
glad to take it. And
Wow.
you do get to that point where, okay, well, maybe I could have worked on my communication. I could have been better at communication. So I study a lot of communication right now.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, well, this probably could have helped. But again, like you say, it's a two-way street. So you
Right.
can learn all the skills and development that you want, but the other person isn't doing their best to also say, I want to learn and grow with you.
Right.
You're growing by yourself. And then you're definitely bound to fail at that point.
Wow. And that's, you used a lot of great analogies, especially as the one as far as the building, holding the building, because we don't look at that because actually to me, a marriage is, you have to have the foundation. You have to have the foundation because if you don't have that foundation, it's going to crack. It's going to get, there's going to be turmoil. There's going to be rocky road. There's going to be all those things in place that's going to come hit you, and on that note, Michael said, he goes, he felt that the rug was pulled out from up under him. He said, "My world stopped turning. I failed as a man of God." So, in hearing what Michael said, what words would you give Michael?
So that's always a tough feeling because you really do feel like that. You feel like you have no more footing or nothing else to stand on at this point.
Wow.
And I will say this: it's okay to feel that way.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel that way. You don't have to deny it. You don't have to make yourself feel like you're still holding on to something that's no longer there.
Right.
And a lot of times we will do that. We will purposely delusion ourselves
Mm-hmm.
to make us just so we don't have to feel that pain of the
Wow.
rug being underneath us, no longer being underneath us. So
Wow.
feel the pain
Okay.
because pain doesn't last always. It's not
Hmm.
designed to last. It's designed to let you know there is a problem. So
Right.
the sooner you learn to accept that there is a problem and accept that the problem is not going to always be there, the faster we can get to the next step in
Mhm.
rebuilding, regrowing, and getting to the next level. Because no person is perfect. I know I wasn't perfect. I made a lot of
Mhm.
mistakes,
Right.
and
Right. We all
you just
do.
have to acknowledge that.
We all do. And I want to say this, for people that are going through tough times right now in their marriage, you know, you have to keep God in the midst of it. But not only that, communication, I say, is one of the top things that you need, at the top five. You need communication, you need trust first and foremost. Because if you don't have communication, it's very hard to go forward or go through life with somebody who doesn't communicate. We all may have different techniques on how we communicate, because sometimes you don't have to say anything verbally, but it's your
Yes.
body language, and your body language speaks loud. You don't have to open your mouth. You don't have to cuss nobody up one and down the other. You don't have to, say your little last words. Your
Right.
body language is going to tell that person that you don't want to have anything to do with them. Don't touch me. I'm done with you. You do you, and I do me. And I remember telling somebody that before when I was in a relationship with somebody. I said, you know what? I said, you go do you. I don't care
Yep.
who you go with. I don't care who you be with. Just leave me alone. And you get to that point where you're actually tired. But with a man, to say this, Anthony, so you're in a marriage and say, like you said, we all make mistakes. And say a man who's made multiple mistakes, but he's caught himself and he's trying to change for the better because he has a family. He has a wife and he's responsible for. So when he makes that change and that wife does not recognize that change and she's still putting him through that pain, what advice would you give to him?
So Rome wasn't built in a day.
Right.
Biggest thing. Right. So yeah, you made the mistake. The question never is whether or not you fall. The question is what happens when you get back up. Right.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
are you purposely getting back up? Are you making the necessary changes? Because most people won't see it. They won't see that you're making an adjustment
Right.
because it's easier to see your failure than it is to see your progression. Because
Mm.
progression, if I see your progression, that means I got to progress too.
Wow.
And this is one of the things I learned from even just being around successful people. And what
Mm-hmm.
happens is one of the reasons why that you have to pretty much get new friends around you is because
Mm-hmm.
people only see you for who you were back in the day. They're
Yes.
not seeing the new person that you've become. And a lot of times
Yeah.
that's what happens when a person becomes hurt. It's easier to hold on to
Mm-hmm.
the hurt and the pain than it is
Mm-hmm.
to say, okay, I'll let it go and let's move forward. Because now
Mm-hmm.
letting it go and moving forward means that they also have to grow and move
Have to
forward
grow.
too.
That's
And I talk
good.
about forgiveness. Forgiveness is really the purpose of forgiveness is so you
Mm-hmm.
can move forward.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
forgiveness
Yes.
is literally imagine you're in a jail cell. The door's
Okay.
locked,
Mm-hmm.
and the warden comes in and says, "Hey, look, I'm going to give you an opportunity to get out." They literally put the key in the jail cell for you.
Mm. Okay.
That's what forgiveness is. Now, what most people do is they sit inside the jail cell even though they have the key.
That's good. Good.
Because it's easier to say, well, it's your fault. I can't get out of here. Instead of saying,
Mm.
well, I have the key. I can just unlock it and get out and live a free life.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Yes. Yes. That's really good. And that's true. In so many ways, it is so true because a lot of us are in a mental prison,
Yeah.
and we hold on to, like you said, the pain, the hurt that the individual has caused, and it's so much easier, like you said, to point finger and say, you did X, Y, and Z. Okay, yes, the person done X, Y, and Z, but the person apologized.
Yeah.
And so now you're still holding that piece of cheese over their head and you're dangling it over their head. So you're not allowing them to grow any further because you keep you keep trying to open that wound up. You keep trying to pull that scab off and not allow it to heal. And that's a lot of times with women. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says, I'm paraphrasing, whereas to be the nagging wife on the top of the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And a lot of people, a lot of people don't. And I say this: nobody wants to hear anybody nag.
No.
Right? No, and even a man can go that way too. We don't want to hear anybody nagging, but again, communication is the key.
Yes.
And a
Yes.
lot of times we fail because we don't communicate. A lot of
100%.
times we fail because we don't let the person know this is how I want to be treated. And you have to tell somebody, okay, you're doing this to me and it's hurting me. Or you're doing this to me and it's preventing my growth, it's stunting my growth.
Yes.
And then but there's times where you are sharing that information with that person and that person just don't want to accept it. Why? Like you said, that person don't want to grow. They're
Yes.
comfortable where they're at. They're comfortable being, a woe is me kind of thing, and not take, okay, accountability too. Okay, I have a part to play in the marriage. I have, yeah, he has his role. I have my role. So, but what tends to happen, which I noticed, and I can speak on myself from the past, where it's so much easier to say, "You're doing this to me. You're hurting me," and keep poking the bear, poking the bear, poking the bear, and not allowing him to grow. And then my mouth was like a knife. Like I would say things just to cut you down because you hurt me. So I'm hurt. So I'm gonna hurt you. But I'm hurting you with words. And we have to understand as women, words can either bring life to our husbands and to our marriage, or our words can either kill our marriage and kill our husband.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have the option to choose which way we're going to go.
And you
Because
know what's
again, go ahead.
I heard. So I was, as I mentioned, I'm very big on focusing on communication, and
Mm-hmm.
I was on a Bible plan on communication. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that they said is, don't use your gift as a weapon.
Hmm.
And a lot of us use that. Our very tongue is a gift, and we use it as a weapon against people.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, it's not that the person isn't trying to understand; it's we don't know how to communicate in a way that they understand.
Right, right.
We don't take the time to understand. Okay, how do you properly communicate? Am I saying this right? Am I saying this wrong?
Right.
For over 10 years, I worked at call centers. And there was
Okay.
times where I would have a conversation with somebody and I'm trying to explain technical support issue, especially dealing with some of our older generation.
All
And
right.
just they don't understand. So it's re-explaining the same thing in 10 different ways to figure out
Mm-hmm.
which one way they're going to understand and they're going to grasp onto.
Right. Right.
And when we don't take the time to make the adjustment. Okay, maybe you don't understand this. Okay, let me say it this way. Okay, no, you don't
Right.
understand that. Let me say it this way. Okay, you didn't understand that. Now let me say it this way.
Right.
Sometimes
Right.
we get impatient. We're like, I don't want to do that. That's too much work. I'm tired of that. I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's
Mm-hmm.
times where sometimes we just deal with people who don't want to listen. No matter what you
See?
say, no matter how you say it, it's one ear out the other. And
True.
like you said, women can tear down their home with their mouth. We tear
Mm-hmm.
down our home with our hands, but you tear down
Okay.
the home with your mouth.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
if a man could be doing everything wrong, that's how he ends up in a situation. Woman could
Right.
be saying everything wrong, and that's how she. And
Yeah.
that's really what it comes down to. It's are we finally are going? When are we going to actually take the time to understand how the other person communicates, and what is the
Right.
best,
Right.
most effective way to communicate with them?
That's good. That's good. And something too, Anthony, and I know I'm guilty of it too, where and I read a post, and that's what brought it back to my remembrance. Um, there was a post that stated that instead of asking God to change your spouse, Ask God to change you.
Yes.
Ask God to show you how to love that your spouse.
Yes.
Because God is going to show you the ways that you can love your spouse. God is going to show you the ways you can communicate to get through to your spouse.
Yes.
Um, so we have to be not only in tune with ourselves, but we have to be in tune with our spouse. And
Yeah.
we all don't learn on the same level.
No.
We all don't think on the same level.
No.
But again, like you said, you had to adjust to your customers. You had to figure out what works best for you in getting your point across to your customers. Again, because I may not learn like you, and my love language may not be like yours, and the way that I think and process things may not be like yours. I may be an overthinker,
Yeah.
whereas you can be just okay. I'm thinking, and then that's what it is. That's what it is. But then on the other hand, your spouse can be like, okay, let me analyze that. Analyze that. Okay, he said no. So what does that really mean? He said can't do it. So what does that really mean? You have different people that are going and they're dissecting things
Yes.
differently. They're digesting things differently, and that too can bring a lot of headache. And that too can bring a lot of pain in a marriage. So
Yes.
Anthony, in the midst. So if you have, so I want you to give advice to someone that is watching or may watch the replay. So if they're going through the situation right now where they're trying to communicate the best way they can to their spouse with their spouse, and their spouse is just not getting or grasping what they're trying to say, well, what advice would you give to them?
So I would say this:
hmm
the meaning of words is not in the word itself; it's in the person.
Okay.
So I might say the word bad,
hmm
and one person they automatically thought of a woman. First
Okay.
thing, she's bad.
Mind,
Like
mindset. Yeah.
I know exactly what I'm saying, thinking about. And on another end, someone's thought about something that's not good.
Hmm.
So the word itself is not about the words that we use; it's the meaning that is attached to that person according to the word.
Good. 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 Good.
And until we get to that point where we can understand, okay, what is your background? How did you grow up?
hmm
If I tell you that I'm up the street, what does that really mean? You know, black people, we say
Right.
it all the time,
Right.
I'm up the street. Yeah, we haven't really left the house. Like, right? So it's like, and when we understand that, it makes
hmm
we actually begin to start having a little bit more grace. And I always
Yeah.
tell people, we want grace from people and we want God to give us grace.
But we don't want
We're
to
not,
give it.
we're always willing to give it to the next person.
Mm,
And
mm.
that's a downfall because we want, but we're never really just to give. And that's a big thing. You have to be willing to give. You have to be willing
Yeah.
to give way more than actually you're willing to receive back because I've learned this and I one day I kind of figured it out and I was like, why do I have great communication skills at work but not at home?
Mm, that's good.
And I just realized that it's because I applied at work because they're paying me for it. It means something.
Right,
When I'm at
right.
home, it's not about oh they're paying me. It's oh I'm trying to get my point across. It's about me now.
Yeah. Right, right, right. That's
So
good. That's good.
when we start to become others focused and stop being personally focused,
Mm-hmm.
then that's when we really start seeing our communication style change. That's when we start to see us really begin to understand the person.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
God had to show me this. In the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
knowledge is free.
Right.
So there's a concept very simple. Knowledge, information is free. Costs you
Right.
nothing to get information. However, the Bible never says understanding and wisdom are free.
Hmm.
Never says that. In fact, the Bible
Mm.
says if it costs you everything,
Yes, yes,
you
yes.
get it. You get understanding, you get wisdom. So
That's
wisdom
what.
and knowledge is going to cost you. It's
Oh,
going to cost
absolutely.
you.
Absolutely.
And so we have this backwards thinking that, oh well, you should just give me. No, no. Only thing I can give you is information. I can give you as
Mm-hmm.
much information as possible. It doesn't mean
Right.
you're automatically going to understand it, and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that you're automatically going to be able to apply it. Those two
Mm.
things are going to cost you something. It's going to cost you
Right.
time. It's going to cost you energy. It may cost you money because you might have to
Right.
go to seminars and different things of that nature to kind of like really process and understand it. It may cost
Right.
you therapy. It's going to cost you something. But
Mm.
when your why becomes greater than the cost associated, then you'll make the
Mm.
change.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. That's good. I like that. I like that. So let's go. Let's jump into now uh co-parenting. So in the midst of the divorce, you have to come up you have to come up with a schedule um that works best for the both of you. So in the midst of you trying to create a schedule, and if you have a spouse, I'm not saying that's what is going on in the situation, but what I'm just saying, because I've seen this a lot. I witnessed this a lot in different other divorces where they would try to reach out. The husband or the ex-husband would try to reach out to see their children. And then because she's still hurting in so many ways, she's now using the kid as the pawn and
Yeah.
not allowing the father to see their children. What advice would you give them?
So when it comes to divorces, I'm a firm advocate of 50-50 custody. You get them
Right.
for a week, I get them for a week, or however we're going to structure that and set that up. Because I'm a firm believer of being there for the children.
Right.
Uh, I think that's important because even if things don't work out between you and the spouse, the
Mm-hmm.
children still matter. And we do have to learn how to get over our personal feelings and make it about the
Mm-hmm.
children and deal
Mm-hmm.
with our personal feelings in our own time.
Right.
So that's something like for me, that's always a touchy subject because I'm a firm believer of no, like the child needs their mother, the child needs their father.
Right.
They
Absolutely.
right. So even if they can't be in the same household together, they still need that other parent.
The
And
co-parent. Right.
sometimes we do end up running into situations where the man is hurting or the woman is hurting, and they're using the kid essentially as a pawn to get back at the other parent, and
Mm-hmm.
you're only hurting the child. You're really
Absolutely.
hurting the child.
Absolutely.
And then
Absolutely.
the child grows up thinking, okay, this other parent doesn't really love me, but that's not the case.
Mm.
Now, in times where maybe the other parent really isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, the
Mm-hmm.
child, as long as a parent, you're never, because I don't believe in talking bad about the other parent when the child's around. I
Right.
don't believe in telling any business of the child. You're a child, you stay in the child's place. That's your job. I'm an
Yeah.
adult. I'll take care of what I got to take care as an adult. And
Yes.
allow the child to see the other parent for as they're supposed to see the parent as they
Mhm.
grow older.
Yes.
So if the other parent really isn't doing what they're supposed to do, the child will find out and see it as they're growing up.
Absolutely.
They'll see it.
Absolutely.
But if the parent is
Mm-hmm.
doing everything that they possibly can, and it's life. Life happens.
Yes.
So if that's the case, the child's going to see that too. You know how
Mm-hmm.
many
So they go.
times I've seen and heard stories of kids that grow up and they realize, wait a minute, my dad really loved me. My dad was trying to do
Mm,
this. My dad was doing that. And it was you,
mm.
mom, that was the issue.
Right.
In
Right.
the old days where you kind of keep everything hush hush. No, everything gets out now.
Oh,
So
social media, honey. Social
yeah,
media.
so it's going to come out. So eventually it gets to that point where it's no, your dad or your mom, whoever the parent that was really reaching out was actually doing
Mm,
what they're supposed to be doing. And
yes.
there was a blocker, and that can ultimately come back to bite you later
Absolutely.
because now this child grew up without an essential parent
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they're now you're blocking, and now that bites you because you're like, I'm thinking I'm having because don't get it twisted, boys have daddy issues too. We do.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on.
And
Yeah.
as a man, we grew up not knowing what it's like to grow to become a man because we
Mm-hmm.
didn't have that male figure to help us
Right.
become a man.
Right.
And now we're like, I could have been so much further if I would have had my dad in my life.
I had my dad. That's good. That's good.
So just little things like that. I always think about what do you want your child to grow up as? Do you
Mm,
want them to continue the cycle, or do you want them to break the cycle?
right.
And
Yeah.
that's a big deal. And I know part of that is being honest and
Mm-hmm.
forward with your child. because I know
Right.
as parents, we don't always want to tell our kids all the dirt that we did
Mm.
and all
Oh,
our issues.
you want to like a saint from your kids.
Right? And I think that's part of the downfall as a parent, though,
Right.
because they need to know that. They need to know, no, daddy made that mistake.
Yeah.
And I tell my kids, my job is to show you and teach you my mistakes. So
Mm.
you don't have to make them. Like
Yes.
you're a human. You're gonna make your own mistakes. I promise you, you will.
Right.
Just don't make mine. That's it. Just don't
Right.
make mine. Let my learning curve be your growth curve.
That's good. Good. And that's truly, and that's absolutely correct. Everything you said is right on the nail. But again, I've seen it, and I've seen it, and it's truly sad because again, the child is the one who hurts. The child is the one who misses out on an opportunity to, whether it's the mother, or whether it's the father, the relationship. And again, like you said, it'll come out. What's done in the dark will absolutely come out in the light.
Yeah.
It may not come out tomorrow, but it will eventually come out. And it may not come out like you want it to come out, but it's going to come out. But again, we have to, and I get it. I get life. I get divorce. I understand that divorce hurts. I understand the pain. But again, as a parent, your responsibility is your child's well-being, your
Yeah.
child's happiness. Because if we're bleeding on the inside, what's going to happen? We're bleeding onto our children. And so
Yeah.
now our children is toxic now because we're bleeding toxicity onto our children. And we're
Yeah.
we're robbing our children of a relationship with their parent. And when I always tell everybody, when I went through my divorce with my kid's daddy, I would call him, come pick him up. I never would deny my because I look at it as if that's my time for me. Let
Yes.
me do what I want to do for me. But now in society, and I see it a lot, especially in our young women, and that's a whole different topic. But in our young women, I see that they use their children so much as a pawn. They want the daddy to pay the child support. They want the daddy to give the money whenever they call. Johnny needs this, or Sally needs that. And you want them to jump. But then again, when he wants to get his child, you hold his children from him, and you're not giving him the opportunity to be a dad to his children. And
Yes.
it's crazy and it's backwards and it's sad to say that, but I see it so often now where they do that to the men. And I remember one case with the guy that I used to work with at the prison. She was so vindictive and so evil because she was mad that he didn't want to be with her anymore. She would literally call the prison to try to get him fired. And I'm
Yeah.
like, hello, Dingleberry, why would you stop that? Because now you're not getting your money because you're messing with your money. I mean,
Exactly.
you're not thinking about, okay, I'm going to cut his money off. Okay, so now you cutting his money off. Where is he or how is he going to pay child support to you? You know
Exactly.
what I'm saying? So, and then she went as far as saying that he was touching the kids and he wasn't touching the kids. And so doing that, what happened was of course, the courts are going to, believe, and there's nothing wrong with that. If your child comes, you say that they're being touched, that's cool. But just trying to be evil and vindictive just because you don't want that man to be a part of his children and to make up a lie that can actually detrimentally, destroy who he is as a person, and
Yes.
I get being hurt, but to go that far to that extreme is really evil.
Yeah.
And
100%.
again, and it's messing up your children. So in the co-parenting, what advice can you give or say to people that are watching and will catch the replay in co-parenting? How important is co-parenting?
So co-parenting is actually extremely, extremely important. My two older boys, they have the same mom,
Mm-hmm.
and with me and her, our co-parenting has always been really, really good. Even and I tell people there was times we didn't like each other at all. Like
Right.
no, it was all right. We staying in the car while the kids are getting out of the car, right? But we never let the kids really see that. So the
Mm-hmm.
kids never knew anything different. It was okay. Well, I'm going to mom, I'm going to dad's, and they
Right.
grew up to a point where now when she can call me
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Hey, your son is doing this. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Well, what's this I hear about you back talking to your mom? What's going
Yeah.
on?
Right. Right.
We gonna have a problem?" Like,
Right.
they know. They're like, "Oh, yeah, no, I don't want no issues, right?" or
Mhm.
it's easy for her to just call me like, hey, like so for instance, my oldest son Elijah, he needed stuff for because he's in like AP classes. So
Okay.
he's like, hey dad, I need, some test stuff going on. I said, okay, great, I'll pay for it. My check came a little later than I wanted to because of the holiday. And I
Right,
was like,
right.
hey, you front me outside, we don't have to pay the late fee. She goes, yeah, I got you. Literally paid her right back. But because of
Good.
the relationship that we had, he was
Right.
able to get what he needed in a timely
Yes.
manner. And neither of us was hurting in the process.
Good,
So
good.
just little things like that, they play a big difference. And my kids are able to see, like, no. Because there was a time where they would, even when they were younger, she would call me like, he's not listening. All right,
Mm-hmm.
run on over. Let me
Right. Okay.
no.
Okay.
Your mom says something, you do it. I don't care if
Right.
you don't see me there or not, because you listen to me. So you better listen to her the same way.
Right.
And
Right.
they had that understanding, like it doesn't matter whether you're at my house or mom's house. That doesn't change who your parent is. And
Absolutely.
that's important because what happens is kids are smart.
Mm-hmm.
Kids know how to pin people up against each other.
Yeah.
And they'll
Manipulate.
be
Yeah.
like, well, mom let me do this or dad let me do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now you're competing with the other parent instead of working with the other parent. So
Yes. That's
now your
good.
kid is still, the kid thinks they're winning because now
Mm-hmm.
they can kind of do whatever. But I've learned something. When I was younger, I would have
Mm-hmm.
friends and their parents would let them do whatever they want.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, they're so lucky. Man, do whatever I want. And now that I'm an adult, I'm like, I'm happy my mom didn't let me do whatever I want. I'm happy my dad didn't
Yeah.
do whatever I want.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Because now I see what their life is and what my life is.
Hmm.
And a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
kids don't have future perception. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have that yet. All
Mm-hmm.
they have is right now.
Right.
So they're constantly living in the right now, the moment for this. That's it. That's all they have.
Right.
So
Right.
you can think 5, 10, 20 years in the future like an adult can. And the ones that can, those are obviously some rare ones. That's because they're parents generally. But in most cases, most kids don't think that far ahead. It's what's beneficial to me right now.
Now. Right.
And
Right.
as a parent, we have to think that far ahead. We have to think, well, what's beneficial to my kids in 10, 20, 30 years?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is me arguing and bickering and keeping them away from, keeping my kids away from the other parent or not working with them properly and not making things a little smoother. Is that really
Right.
going to benefit them later? Is that
Mm.
really going to help them later?
Good.
When we don't think that way, we end up
Mm-hmm.
putting our kids in positions where we set them back. And
Mm.
I've learned that one of our biggest responsibilities as parents is
Mm-hmm.
to give our kids a leg up. So
Yeah.
essentially, we're the foundation. Our
Right.
kids
Right.
never start from where we started from.
Mm.
They should be starting from where we're ending. That's where they
Mm.
should be starting. So if you're in a position where you don't know how to communicate, then you should be learning how to communicate so your kids know how to communicate. If you're
Yes.
in a position where you're financially things may not be going the way you need to go, well, work on your finances so your kids don't start not knowing about finances.
Right.
If you're
Right.
in a position where you've been divorced, right? It may
Mm-hmm.
not be you're getting a divorce, it's you've been divorced already. Teach your
Right.
kids about that. Hey, this is why me and your mom didn't work out. This is
Okay.
your dad's part. This is your mom's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
now what that does is that puts him in the best position to say, okay, I know what mom and dad did. I know how to make it better. Instead of
Mm.
now, because we have adults right now who've seen their parents get divorced and say, I would never get married because my parents got
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
divorced. Versus, okay, my
Yes.
parents didn't work out. This is why. This is how I can overcome that. Two
Mm-hmm.
different ways of thinking.
Yeah.
Or we have another thinking of it's their fault because they didn't work out. My life is not good. Versus,
Mm.
okay, they didn't work out, but this is how my life can get better. So we
Yeah.
should be instilling that in our children. And when we're not properly co-parenting and learning how to
Mm-hmm.
work together, and then if we don't know how to work together, just stay out of each other's way. As long as we're not hurting each other and trying to block each other, then there can be progress there. So
Yeah. It's
it's
a
one of
it's a learned thing. I think co-parenting because um it's not easy because your
the,
emotions are all over the place in the beginning, and I get it. So it is a learned behavior, it's a learned thing. And one thing I always do, there's a young lady here in Vegas, her name is Ebony, and I give her kudos all the time. And Ebony talks about co-parenting. She even written a book about co-parenting and how her and her son's father, they co-parent and things of that nature. And co-parenting is good, but again, you may not start out that way on a good foot. Y'all may be at each other's throat and want to choke each other and everything else. But then when y'all get a handle, a grip of things, and you start thinking about your children, you don't want your child to see what's going on, then your mindset begin to change, because why are you putting your children's feelings and emotions above your own? And it's not saying that you can't grieve. It's not saying that you can't show your emotions. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is there's a time and a place for it, and don't allow your child to be the victim of your pain,
yes,
and because again, your child is going to hurt, your child is going to suffer. Your child's not going to know how to have a perfect, I won't say perfect because nothing's perfect, but you know, a relationship, a thriving relationship, because like you mentioned, Anthony, because now they're afraid to get married. I've heard that. I've heard young people say, "Well, I'm not getting married. Mama's marriage just didn't work, or Daddy's marriage didn't work. I don't even do that. I'm gonna just do what I want to do. Sow my roll of oats."
yeah,
And that's and that's traumatic for them.
yes,
And
yeah,
so
it is.
now they have PTSD because uh I seen the bad things out of a marriage. I didn't see anything good. I didn't see how mama was loved, or I didn't see how daddy was loved. I didn't see how daddy showed mama love. I didn't see how, how to communicate properly. So how can I really communicate with somebody? How can I get married to somebody? And I don't know those things. I don't have those tools.
Yes,
So we
very
have to learn how to give our kids the tools that they're going to need to be successful in whatever that they do.
yes,
Yes, they're going to fall short of sometimes. Yeah, I get that. We all do. Yes, they're going to make mistakes, and that's how we all learn. We learn from our mistakes.
yes,
But again, don't set your child up for failure coming out the gate.
exactly.
Like you say, you give them a hand up, a hand up, leg up. You give them that, and that way, so they'll have something to hold on to while going in the midst of a relationship, a marriage. So young men will know how to treat their women.
Yes,
So dads have to show their sons and even the girls, how to treat their mothers in front of them.
yes,
Show the affection.
yes,
Show that, okay, daddy opened the door for mama. Daddy, pulling a chair out for mama. Daddy's looking out for mama. Hey, baby, you want something to drink? Or come here, let me give you a massage. Show those kinds of emotions or those feelings or actions so your child can see, oh, well, hey, daddy did that for mama. I want my man to do the same thing for me, you know,
exactly,
or
exactly.
vice versa. But a lot of times we don't think about stuff like that. We think about, like you said, in the now, right now, what's happening right now. We're
And I
not looking
always say,
at the future.
the purpose of each parent is simple. A
Mm-hmm,
man, so a father to a son, he
mm-hmm,
teaches the son how to be a man. He's the example of what a man is supposed to be. He
mm-hmm.
teaches the son how to treat any woman he's going to be with.
Right.
He also shows his son what's acceptable to accept in regards to treatment. And
Mm-hmm. Okay.
a woman teaches her son how he should be treated by being the example of this is how I treat your father. And
Right.
also taught how to be loved by a woman. And
Right.
as for a daughter, a man teaches his daughter this is how you should be treated. And he
Mm-hmm.
also teaches his daughter this is what you should be this is how you love a man. And as a
Mm-hmm.
woman, you teach your daughter, hey, this is not only how you become a lady, but this is how you should respect a man. And this is how
Mm-hmm.
you should be able to care for a man.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times we only see, because of the households and how things have been going in our current society, we only see half of it. So we end up with boys that only know what it's like to be treated by a woman. So they think
Right.
everyone should be like their mom and buy them everything.
Right. Right.
Then we have women who only know how to be treated by their mom, and all they see is their mom working. So guess what they're going to do? That's all they know. I'm going to be
Yes.
and do everything by myself because I've never seen a man take care of my mom. So I don't know what it's like for a man to take care of me because I don't. That's not normal.
That's
And at
good.
the
That's
same
good.
time, on the flip side, it works the exact same way. So it is both. It's important that you have that dual structure because even if you're not going to be in the same household,
Right.
still have it available because. And I tell people, as men, don't be afraid to ask for 50-50 custody. Ask,
Right.
don't be afraid. And I know in society we've made it normal to where the woman always gets full custody of the kids and the dad gets them on the weekends, and that's not always the best case for the child. There are bad moms too, just like there are bad fathers. But at the same time, sometimes the best thing for a child is for them to be able to see each parent on an equal footing. I got
Come on.
dad this
That's
week, I got mom this week,
that's
and now
good.
you see both sides. And like you said earlier, you need a break too. Like,
Absolutely.
right? We're adults
Absolutely.
to ourselves, and you don't get that when you're not allowing the other parent to be a parent, and
Yeah.
that's important too. You need your self care, and as individuals, we do neglect ourselves all the time, and
Hmm.
we definitely need to stop doing that. That's for sure.
Yeah. You get burnt out. You truly get burnt out. Because you're always running, especially being a parent, and you know how busy it is. And if you have more than one, you truly know how busy it is.
Yes.
You're dealing with different emotions, different personalities, because everybody don't have the same personality.
Nope.
But we have to learn how to co-parent. We have to learn how to put our children first because again, it's not for our benefit, it's for our children's benefit. So that way they know how to have relationships and know how to act accordingly in a relationship, because yes, their voice matters, but then again, if you're in a marriage, both parties voices matter. So we have
Yeah.
to learn how to not always say me, 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 me. Okay, what about my spouse?
Yes.
Learn your love language of your spouse.
Ex-
I may like gifts. Yeah, I love gifts. So I may I may like gifts, and I may like just affirmations, and you may like quality time and things like that. But again, that's how we learn. And no marriage is perfect.
no.
We all gonna have some our ups and our downs, and all the way around we're gonna have that. There's gonna be times where you don't even like your spouse.
Yep.
There's gonna be times where I don't even want to look at you. But that's being but that's just being in the marriage. You're gonna have those days. But then again, I always tell people, and I tell my husband this too, that we can't let our fire die. We
Yes.
gotta always keep our flames burning. When we see it get too low, don't even let it get too low. Then we have to cultivate it. We have to nourish it. We have to, to do the things that we need to do to get it to point. So in a divorce, now that, because when you're in a marriage, you have two finances coming in the household. So now that you're going through a divorce, now you're stuck, or you're saying, okay, now I only have my income. I don't have the other person's income now. So what was your outtake on that? Your outlook on now my finances is being affected now, because before we had more monies, or I had more monies to deal with. Now I only have mine. So now I really have to watch what I spend. Now I really can't splurge and do what I want to do. Now I have to watch everything that I do. So what is your advice, or what was your outlook when you was going through and you had to make adjustments in your finance department?
So this is generally always where it gets real difficult because today isn't like how it was when I was younger, or even when I was like 18, 19, 20 years old, where cost was reasonable.
Mm-hmm,
Everything's going
mm-hmm.
up, everything. And
Right.
now in a in a dual income household, somebody's still sometimes working an extra job just to
Yeah.
keep afloat. So
Right.
now you sometimes end up putting yourself in a position where you have to work multiple jobs, and that
Right.
long term, especially if you're dealing with kids and everything else. So it is a balance of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
balancing. Okay, what I need to do and where I need to stay, and understanding a budget.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why I really honed in on finances was because once you learn how to understand your money, then you can start getting everything to flow a little more fluidly.
Right.
And sometimes that's always going to be a tough part and a sore spot for a lot of people because most people don't have the financial education. They don't have understand
Mm-hmm.
how to properly budget or anything like that. And sometimes you're going to have to be okay with taking a step back. I told
Mm.
somebody recently I had to let go of my ego. And as
Mm.
men, that's a hard thing to do. And sometimes
Yeah.
that means
Yeah.
go back home, stay with your
Mm.
parent, stay with us,
Mm.
take the
Yeah.
opportunity that you have and rebuild your finances.
Mm.
Because yeah, it sounds great. You have your own spot and you can do whatever you want when you want to do it. That sounds great.
Yes.
Emergencies are still going to happen. Life is still
Right.
going to happen. Your
Right.
kids
Right.
are still going to need things. That changes nothing.
Right.
So the question is, are you using that time wisely?
Mm.
So get rid of the ego and be
Come on.
okay taking a step back so you can get a
Come
better
on.
view.
That's
And
good.
sometimes
That's
that's what
good.
it comes down to. You just have to learn that it's okay to take a step back. That doesn't
Right.
mean stay back. That means
Right.
take a step back, look at everything that's going on, slow
Mm-hmm.
down,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and now move forward in what you need to do.
That's
And
good.
I ended up doing this is actually a Facebook post of mine I did. And I asked people, what was the biggest thing that 2024 taught them? And for
Mm-hmm.
me, 2024 taught me the lesson I believe God was truly, truly trying to teach me was slow down. You're still going to get
Mm. Yes. Yes.
moving too fast. You can move fast in a circle and get nowhere.
Didn't get nowhere like a hamster on a wheel. Yes. Yes,
That's
Lord.
exactly, and that's so many people. They're literally
Yeah.
a hamster on a wheel, and they're moving, they're running, they're
No
sweating,
going nowhere.
and going nowhere.
Nowhere.
They're trying to figure out why is nothing changing in my life. It's because you
Mm.
haven't taken the time to say, "Let me get off the hamster wheel,
Right.
figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
and think about okay, what do I really want?"
Yes,
And
that's good.
getting back to your finances is actually a good way to rediscover who you are. What do you
Hmm.
really want? Where are you looking to go in life?
Right, right.
That can help you find additional passions that maybe you couldn't find because you're so focused on the wife, the kids, the husband, the kids. And now
Mm.
you can take the time back and say, okay, well, I still have my kids.
Right.
I'm putting things back in line.
Okay.
What do I really want to do in life? God, where are
Mm.
you really trying to take me?
Yes, yes,
God,
yes.
where what are my talents? What are my gifts? What what
Mm-hmm.
what can I actually do? For some
Right.
people, as bad as it might sound, the divorce was the best thing that could ever happen to you.
Mm.
Now it puts you back in a position where it's you and God and
Come
you
on.
set yourself again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And now
Yes.
you recenter yourself. God can give you direction. Now God can show you how to take off. So the
Mm.
next time you do get remarried, because I do believe most people that get married, they still believe in marriage. And they
Right,
will.
right, right, right.
So next time it's time to remarry, you're
Mm-hmm.
not making the same mistakes. You're not in the same position.
Come
And
on.
you ultimately became a better person. So now the
Yeah.
next person that comes into your life, God is actually truly able to bless you forward, and you're not
Mm.
going back in the same wheel all over again.
That's good. That's good. That's good. So here, let's go to some of the comments. So Michael said, "Speak life to your spouse." Miss Annette said, "Sad that this time and age is not happening. I pray it changes." And that's the part when we was talking about how the mothers are always the one getting the full custody. So that's where
Yeah,
her comment came in. And Mr. Lot, he said, very important to be there for the kids as much as you can. Be a part of all activities, schools, and sports. Now let's
yeah,
stop right there for that on that note, because sometimes even you want to be there for your kids, and sometimes you have to now you have to work.
yes,
You have to make sure that your bills are being taken care of. And there are times where the parents can't go to some of the sports games. I know I was like that. My boys were in sports, and I hate that I miss my kids being in sports sometimes. Why? Because I had to make a choice.
yes,
I had to go to work. There are times where you're not able to attend the games, and sometimes your kids will, hate you for it or be mad at you because you're not there. because I've had one of mine say that, well, you never was there with none of my games. It's not that I didn't want to be there. It's because
Yeah.
I had to provide for you. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's a hard place to be in, because you want to be there for your kids. You want to know, you want to let your child know that you are the biggest cheerleader that they have, that you are in their corner 110%. But again, life happens. And that's where the co-parenting can come into play, because if one parent can't be there, then the other one should be able to show up and show out for
Exactly.
the both of the parents for their child. But again, it takes time to learn how to co-parent. It takes time on how to not want to be at each other's throat and just think about your child. But again, that co-parenting, and I'm going back to that co-parenting because it's very important. Because again, when one parent can't go to a game or to a graduation or to an assembly where your child is receiving an award, then you have the other parent that is able to go and stand in the gap for you and for them, to let them know that, hey, we here for you. We got you. We in your corner. So
Exactly.
that right there is a touchy subject. And one more, Miss Holly said, don't stay in an unhappy and an unhealthy relationship or marriage because of finances. That's true. But you have people that do it, Miss Holly. Yeah. You have people you have people that are still staying with their exes because they don't want to venture out, or they don't want to have the finances, or they're not able to splurge with the money that they have. And now having that other person's money, you still able to splurge on your own self. But again, and that's a very good point, Miss Holly, because you don't want to be in a relationship or a marriage where you're just there for the finances and not truly there for the marriage. People are just there for the benefits and not for the actual marriage. Marriage is work. It's hard work. You're going to get dirty. There's going to be some ugly days. There's going to be some good days. But a marriage, it has to take two people, two willing people, participants, to make a marriage work.
100%.
And just
And
like you
I
said,
think a lot of reasons why people get stuck in unhealthy relationships because of money is because
mm-hmm.
we equate money to freedom and power.
Mm,
And
mm,
sometimes it's a person can hold, I make all the money, so you got to do what I say. They hold your
yes,
power in your hand because they have money.
yes,
And for
yes.
some people, like you said, it's, oh, I'm not going to be able to splurge and do the things I want to do because they're thinking about them losing their freedom and no
Mm,
longer can do the things that they feel are going to make them happy in the moment.
right.
And I know we'd always like to say money doesn't buy you happiness. It can make you happy. It can.
It can, yeah.
However, it doesn't give you true joy.
Mm,
And true joy comes when you don't have to have the money, but you're still
but you're still
enjoy.
happy. Yeah, yeah. Say it.
You're
Mm-hmm.
still grateful. You're still recognizing what you have. And
Right.
joy comes from awareness. And
Mm,
a lot of times we're more aware of the problems than we are
mm-hmm.
aware of all the blessings that we have. And
Mm,
we're more aware of the problem. We
mm-hmm.
think of, oh well, I get this divorce, I'm not gonna be able to get my nails done every week. If I get this
Woo!
divorce, I'm not gonna be able to pay for my car the way I need to pay for my car. If I get this
Mm,
divorce, then I'm gonna lose this house that I put all this money into. She's gonna get the
mm,
house, I'm gonna leave with nothing. If I
mm,
get divorced, then I gotta pay child support. If I get this
mm.
divorce, like we're and people hold things over people's head for that reason. Well, if
Yeah,
you divorce, I'm just gonna take the house from you, and the kid's
yeah,
gonna live with me, and I'm just gonna find another guy. And now as a
yeah.
guy, you're like, well, I put all this time and energy into something, and this is how you want to repay me. And on the
Right.
flip side, man is, well, if you leave me, then I don't know what you and the kids gonna do. Y'all just gonna be homeless. No, there should
Mm,
be no reason why you should ever hold that over another person. And what people do
right.
all
Right.
the time.
Right.
And sometimes that is what keeps people in unhealthy relationships and unhealthy marriages. And again,
Yeah.
that's also damaging to children too, because that's another level
Absolutely.
that's also being um, represented and moved forward as well. So
Yes.
that finances piece is always a touchy piece because on both sides you have to look at both sides. Well, what if someone is holding things over somebody, and then there's the other side of, well, once if you do leave, what are you going to
Right.
do, and how are things going to work, and are you
Yeah.
too egotistical where you can go back to your mom, or what is that estranged relationship that now you got to say, well, I'm sorry, things didn't work out. So for
Yeah.
me, one of the first things one of the first people I had a conversation with was my mom. Hey, mom, I want to have a conversation with you. I want to talk to you. This is the situation with my marriage. This is what's going on. It's not going to work. I've tried this, and this. This is what it's not. And a lot of times we're afraid of that conversation. Because to me, I knew that was going to be the scariest conversation I was going to have. But that was the first conversation I had.
Yes, yes.
And then once I had that conversation, all other conversations were easy to do. So I got rid of the hardest conversation first. And then I found out, I was like, okay, well, I got you. Just let me know whatever you need. And it's like a lot of times the very thing that we're afraid of is the very thing that if we confront it is the thing that will set us free.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. It's good. It's good. Yes, yes.
Be okay to it's okay to have a financial setback. It's okay. It's okay to not be able to get your nails done or have the house. It's okay.
Yeah.
Because I've learned this. When the devil realizes he's losing you, he's trying to find a way to keep you longer. So he tries to lock you to a longer contract. Whether that person is now, well, oh man, he's trying to leave me. I'm going to get pregnant.
Woo, Lord.
She's trying to go, so I'm going to go get the house that she's always wanted. The devil's trying to keep us.
Yeah,
dangle that foothold. Exactly. You got to dangle that.
Dangling. I'm dangling, baby. And you know, the things you're saying is so true, but you know, some people just don't realize or never really seen it or experienced that. But again, you know, having coached several people, that is something that people do use, especially a narcissistic individual.
Yes.
They will use those things to try to hold you, and they will never apologize for their wrongdoing. They will never be held accountable to whatever they've done wrong. It's always you, and you. And but they do. You have them where they can try to control the finances. You know, control who you talk to, where you go, what you wear. You know, so a lot of that and all that plays into that. You know, in the marriage. But again, the communication is always key. We got to go back to communication. And I understand that oftentimes women, because we're emotional creatures, we do speak we speak up a lot about the things that we've gone through. We speak about the hurt. We speak about the divorce. We speak about, but you rarely see a man that comes out and speaks about what it is that he's gone through in a divorce. You know, it's not always about women. You know, our men matter as well. You know, their well-being matters as well, you know, because again, the man is the head of the house, you know, and even when you're not married any longer, you're still a leader no matter what. You're still a king. So you have your well-being, your mental status has to be on point. You know, you cannot keep yourself in mental bondage or mental prison. You know, don't beat yourself up, you know, and it takes two for marriage. You can't, it's not all about just the man or all about the woman. It takes two. So, you know, don't think of yourself as a failure. This is a learning experience for you. And I was just saying that to a young man last week. It is a learning experience. You know, whatever the lesson that God was trying to show you, make sure you got what he was trying to give you. Exactly. And you keep it in your toolbox. And so now again, like you said, you know, so now the next time you go around, you have that tool. You know, okay, I can't make that same mistake because I did it, you know, and in the last. I can't do it. You know, I have to change my mindset. I can't go in, I can't do something new with my old way of thinking, because you're going to turn out the same situation it's going to happen again. So we have to learn how to change our mindset. Marriage is not a bad thing. Marriage is a good thing. You know, it's not, and singleness is not a bad thing either. And divorce is, yes, it hurts, but now is the time for you to learn who you are all over again. And I told a young man that last week. I said, now take this time to love on you.
Yes.
Take this time to know, to learn what you want to do all over again. And then, like you said, there may be some things that you were not able to do when you're in the marriage, and now you're not married now you're able to do that, whether it's to go back to school, whether it's to get more certifications under your belt, whether it's being with you and finance and life insurance, so maybe there's some classes so that you can take. So don't take this as a death sentence.
Yes, exactly.
Because we all go through things in life. And like you said, sometimes God will separate us.
Yep.
He'll isolate us so he can get our attention because everything else was so bombarding our life. So we didn't have time for him. So we were so focused on what she got or what he got going on over here and what the kids got going on over here, where you didn't spend that time with God. God is a jealous God. We have to learn, we have to spend time with him, not only when we want things, but even when things are going good for us in our life. We have to learn how to have that time with him.
Oh
And
yeah,
sometimes, hey, whatever is taking us away from him, he doesn't like that. So,
exactly.
we have to learn how to incorporate um, a relationship with God in our marriage. And my husband and I tell him, I said, come on. I said, let's pray. We got to pray. And so, I learn him, so we can pray together because I truly believe that prayer works. And you know that prayer
Yes.
works. Prayer is the key to a lot of things, you know, things that sometimes, and I went to a church on last Sunday and the pastor was talking about sometimes we have to be quiet. Even though we want to say certain things, we have to learn how to be quiet, because in that quietness, that's when God begin to speak to us. He can begin to show us how to handle our spouses. But again, sometimes we like to have the upper hand. We want to have the last word. Nope, you're gonna listen to what I have to say. I want to get my last word in. And we get like that sometimes. And I'm not gonna lie, I got like that sometimes. I want to say my last word. You're gonna listen to what I have to say. So, but again, we have to be quiet,
Yeah.
and then God can show you, okay, Tina, I need you to do this for Kevin, or Tina, I need you to do that for Kevin, or Tina, just be quiet, shut your mouth, girl. So, because I want to say my last word. I gotta say my last word, Lord. But again, that comes with maturity,
Yes.
to being able to admit, hey, I was wrong. And sometimes we don't like to admit when we're wrong. And that's how we learn. Okay, yes, I was part of the mistake in this marriage. I didn't communicate properly in this marriage. I didn't show her or show him the love that they needed in this marriage. I was not their best friend. I was more as an enemy to them, because I didn't want to take heed or listen to anything that they had to say. So
Yes.
being accountable or being acceptance of what our mistake was will help us to grow, will help us to learn. Okay, so the next go around, I know not to do X, Y, and Z. And
Yes.
this next go around, I know not to be such hot-headed person. I know to shut my mouth when God says shut my mouth and don't speak. So again, all those things come into play in that. So before we close, because this was a good topic on tonight, but before we close, Anthony, I want you to the men that are out there that are going through the divorce right now, to the men that are already in the midst of the divorce, but still can't seem to find their way out. They still seem stuck, like you had mentioned earlier, as a failure. So for the ones that are feeling as if they failed the marriage or I failed my family, speak life into them right now, because it's good for another man to speak life into another man sometimes, because you guys know what you guys deal with. You know your the way you guys think about certain things. We may not know as women know how you think about, okay, divorce. Granted, we may not see you cry. Granted, we may not see you beat yourself up. But again, I know you guys do. But so share and speak life into the men right now. I'm gonna step back. I'm gonna shut my mouth, and I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let you speak life into the men right now.
So I'm gonna start with this. Failure is necessary
Mm,
because if you don't fail, you don't learn.
mm,
And a lot of times we are trying to avoid failure because we're really afraid of growing and we're afraid of learning, and we just don't want the stigma of how we look,
Mm.
because it's always going to be our fault. And in our mind, that's what we're taught. That's
Yeah.
how we're raised. That you, regardless of whatever the woman does,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if you would have did better, then y'all would still be married. And
Mm.
Tina, you said something multiple times today. It takes two.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can really do everything in your power
Mm-hmm.
and it's still
Mm-hmm.
not working. And
Right.
that's
Right.
okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Take your time, learn your lesson,
Mm-hmm.
grow, continue to develop, continue to
Right.
become the best version of yourself. The best part about life is life continues to give you chance after chance after chance after
Mm.
chance.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And as long as you're willing to forgive yourself, God is always he's forgiving you before you even messed up. That's the best part about it. God
Right.
always forgives you before you even mess up. He just has
Right.
to, all you have to do is say, God, I messed up. He goes, all right, I know, but I already forgave you, so just keep going. And that's what I need you to do. I needed you to recognize what your issue
Right.
is.
Right.
So learn your lesson, figure out what your issue is,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there, grow from there.
Yes.
You to move in the right direction.
Yes.
And
Yes.
as life is going, and as you're progressing, and as you're reflecting, take time to yourself. Self care for a man is important too. Men,
Mm.
we die before women, men, because we don't take care of ourselves mentally.
Mm.
No.
Mm.
So, because we're so focused on everyone else, we run ourselves ragged. So,
Yes.
take the opportunity to, like I said, learn who you are.
Right.
You're more than just your job. You should
Mm.
be, you understand that I have this picture in the back, and the picture says, he remembered who he was and the game changed. And
Mm.
I purposely put that on my in my background on purpose in my office because in my mind I had to remember who I was. I had to
Oh.
remember who God created me to be. And
Mm.
once I was able to remember that, everything else grew. My life just changed.
Mm.
My life got better. And God was able to continue to use me for my next stage, my next development. So
Mm.
be flexible, be accountable,
Yes.
and
Yes.
allow God to be God. I promise you, He's never failed us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it. It is has been a pleasure to have you on tonight, Anthony. I'm sure talking about from a man's perspective, a man's point of view on divorce and mental health and different things that men go through in the divorce. Because again, a lot of men don't speak up. A lot of men don't talk. They hold it all in, and it's like when you begin to hold things in, it's like cancerous. It begins to eat you from the inside out because you don't share, you don't talk about what it is, and it is okay to get help. It is okay to go see a therapist. It's okay. It does not make you any less than of a man to go and say, hey, okay, I need to go sit on the couch for a minute.
Oh yes,
You
one hundred
know,
percent.
yeah, to learn because then you begin to learn who you are. Because sometimes we don't realize that sometimes our things from the past can come back and we act and react to certain things because of things in our past. So, but when we begin to heal, um, our inner self, when we begin to heal our inner child, then we'll begin to be whole. And then when we whole, then we can have healthy and healthy relationships and marriages. But if we don't take charge of our life, if we don't take charge of our healing, because healing is not nobody else's responsibility, but it's ours.
100%.
So we have to take responsibility in getting the help that we need, whether it's listen to some podcasts, whether it's going to your pastor, whether it's reading some books and the Bible too, because everything we go through in life is in the Bible.
It's in
So
there.
that as well, therapists, anything like that, self-help books, anything that is going to help you get to the point that you need to be
Yes.
healed and whole, because God wants us to be healed and He wants us to be whole. So
Yes, he
how
does.
can we how can we love, or how can we love our children, or how can we love ourselves when we're hurting so much inside? Oh yeah, I'm hurt, but I'm only loving myself halfway. But when
Exactly.
you're whole, you can love yourself all the way.
That's
And
right.
sometimes we rob ourselves of happiness.
Yes.
Because why? Because we're still holding on to what has hurt us in the past. So, this is the new year. We're still 4 days in the new year. So
Yep.
we still have time to get our healing. The healing is yours. It's all you got to do is ask for it. All the you ask God heal. He died on the cross for us for our healing. Everything that we've gone through, he's already, he died for that.
Exactly.
But he wants us to say it to him, even though
Yes.
he knows it. But that's
Yes.
part of the relationship that you
Yes.
have with him. God, I know I done screwed up, I done messed up, I done jumped the broom, I done did this and I did that without consulting you first. So I know you forgive me, but Lord, forgive me and show me the way. And he'll show you the way. And sometimes, and in times that he gonna show us, we may not even like it. There's a thing that I used to do with the kids in the community, the mirror. Look at yourself in the mirror. Like Michael Jackson say, the man in the mirror. So we have to sometimes take a look at ourselves. It's not always who we are connected to.
Yes.
Sometimes it's us.
Yes.
Sometimes it's the way we think because we have a warped way of thinking. We're
Very
not looking, we're not looking through healthy eyes. We're looking through sick eyes and
yes.
then, hurt eyes. So, but
Very
once we take accountability of what we've done, then we can grow and we can move forward. But first and foremost, you have to forgive yourself. Forgive
yes.
yourself and forgive the person, because even though you've forgiven that person, it's not really for that person, it's for you.
Oh
It's
yes.
for
There's no
you.
doubt. Yes.
So I want to thank you, Anthony, for coming on tonight, being transparent tonight, talking to our men on tonight, because we have to uplift one another.
Yes.
We have to. I am my brother's keeper. So you
Yes.
have to, it's not always about us. Hey, you going through something, what you going through? Let's pray about it, or whatever, or just send a text. Hey, bro, I'm going through something, send up a prayer for me. But that's how we have to be that. We have to be there for our brothers and sisters in Christ. We have to be there for our friends and our loved ones like that, and not always ask so many questions. Why, man? What's going on?
Yeah.
Well,
No.
give me more. I want the tea. I want the tea. What's going on? No, if somebody asks to pray, okay, pray.
Exactly. Eh,
And leave it at that, because you can't change nothing. There's nobody but God changed it. So
That's
why are
it.
you so concerned about what he or she going through right now? Just pray. Your brother asked you, your sister asked you to pray. Pray.
That's it. Just pray.
That's it. And then
I love.
tonight was a great topic that we had on tonight. And in 2025, I want to have more topics such as these. I want to incorporate more men in some of these topics because, again, a lot of times our men are left out on things. Um, we're always so focused on women. Not to say that's a bad thing, but at times we need to refocus. We
Yes.
have to focus on our men, because men do go through a lot, not only in the household, but they go through a lot in society. They
Yes.
go through a lot at work, So if we as women can just pray for our men, because they do hold a lot on them. They do have a lot that they deal with, and sometimes they don't voice what they're going through because they feel that they're the man, so they should be able to be strong and handle it. But sometimes our men needs us just to pray for them.
Yes.
Sometimes we need, we don't have to tell them that we're praying for them. Just pray for them,
Yes.
and allow God to do the rest.
I love that.
So again, I thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank
I
you for having
pray that yes, sir, yes, sir. And believe me, we're gonna have some more topics. When you when you're free, we'll have some more topics to talk about. But again, this was a much needed topic. This was a much needed conversation. And then so, I pray that whatever was said on tonight helps somebody tonight, whether you're watching it live or whether you're watching a replay. I pray that the words that were said tonight will help somebody through whatever that they're going through, their divorce, or they're already gone through the divorce and they're still trying to figure out how to get out of the rut that they're feeling. And I know Anthony is also a coach. Anthony does a lot of motivational speaking. So
Yes.
Anthony, share with them how can they reach out to you. And on a man, if a man wants to reach out to you and talk to you, hey brother, help me. This is what I'm going through. Give them your information.
Yeah, so you can always find me on Instagram. My name is speaker underscore refined. There I speak. I'm very big on how to live your life biblically on a day to day from Sunday through Monday. Because a lot of times,
Okay.
so you can always reach out to me. Always DM me Facebook. My name is Anthony Washington. You will literally find me there as well. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
some of the best ways to reach out to me, and then we can always talk. And anytime I'm available, I do my best to uh, reach back out and talk to you, and you can kind of go from understanding where you're coming from, whatever you need. I always tell people if I can, I will. It's a very simple thing.
Mm,
So
mm.
yes, again, so it is speaker, spelled SPEAKER
Mm-hmm.
underscore refined. REF as in Frank, INED like David. So that's the best way to reach me. And again, Facebook, Anthony Washington.
So refine. So speaker underscore refine.
Yes.
Okay. There, I put it in the chat. So again, thank you for coming on tonight, Anthony. You were truly a blessing. And I pray that God open many, 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 many doors for you in 2025
Thank you.
because you do have your hand in a lot of things. And so again, thank you. You have a wonderful evening on tonight.
Thank
And
you as
I'll
well.
see you manana.
See you in the morning.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right. Thank you all for coming on the Healing Project on tonight. Tonight was a topic that was much needed, men in divorce and their mental status. So this year in 2025, we're going to be focusing a lot on men and the things that they go through. It's not that we're putting our women on the back burner, but it's time that we learn to pour into our men in 2025. So this is your girl, Tina Renee, coming to you on this evening at the Healing Project. Everybody stay safe and stay blessed. Till the next time. See ya.